Yeah, and even when I see, of course, whether it be politician, a movie star, actor, I mean, millions of dollars in a particular budget, particularly for a film, millions of dollars. And you mean to tell me that you can't get someone to take that gentleman with that suit and let them actually slim it down a little bit
Right.
and form it? I mean, because all of the
What's going to rise? Webster's Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance. Here with a gentleman I just recently befriended on the interwebs, TikTok and the such. And I really want to sit down and talk with him because I genuinely love talking to other male, especially black male style creators. I love the insight. I love to see how we all got our start, and it's none other than Mr. Justin Howard of GD, excuse me, not G, JDH Styles. Justin, how you doing today, sir?
doing great, doing great. It's wet here in Louisiana, but we're doing good.
Okay, all right, all right. So I have a question. Well, I have a lot of questions, but how did you start this whole internet thing of wanting to, I guess, I hate saying a content creator because I just, me personally, I talk about what I like to. I'm like, I'm not an influencer or whatever. It's like, hey, it's a place for me to really discuss things I like. How and why did you start this endeavor with JDH Styles?
Well, it started, I want to say, in 2021, because I initially, joined TikTok. I joined TikTok in like 2019, actually,
Hmm.
but I deleted my account and then I started back, close to, the pandemic. And then after maybe like a year or so, I realized, you know what? I think this, it's better for me to actually make content that I'm comfortable with. Never mind the likes or so much of the attention, but something that I feel, qualified to talk about, even though it's a social thing. And what really started is I was just sitting one day in Lake Charles here in Louisiana. I had, grabbed something to eat. And then
Hmm.
I realized, you know what? I'm going to start with some outfits of the day. Then I'm going to start talking about fragrances. It's something that I'm very familiar with. And I have an impeccable amount of, knowledge that I've gained through people who, were older and who were more educated on the matter, at the time when I was younger, because I worked a lot of retail
Hmm.
and I have a lot of experience, in that regard, aside from working in the mental health field that I work in today. But what made me just typically, start because, like I said, I feel comfortable speaking about it. I don't have a problem with sharing the information in which I've learned and acquired through the years. It makes me feel very comfortable. It makes me feel great, as a matter of fact. And it's just something that I find very interesting because I often debate with myself. Am I more of an artist or am I more of a scientist? And it's just a mystery of putting together, outfits
Hmm.
along with fragrances and setting the mood in that direction.
Understood. Yeah, I like how you put setting the mood because that's a lot of times, even in my head, what it's about. It's about setting the mood, not necessarily for everybody else, for me in my day, and what kind of mood I want to set for myself throughout the day to uh, really. I don't know about you. I think about, okay, what does my day involve? Like, do I have meetings? Do I have this? Am I speaking? Am I that? What kind of tone do I want to set for myself throughout this day? So setting the mood definitely hits the right spot with me as far as the way I think as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, so with that, with the content creation, what
Mhm.
are some of your inspirations, especially since you're so new to it? What were some of the inspirations that really, if not necessarily got you into it, that you have drawn from in the creation of your own content and how you present things?
All right. So, and this is where it gets really interesting. I'm just going to tell you. All right. So, when I was a little boy, one thing that I definitely would take serious when I was a little boy was playing Super Mario. Now, the backgrounds, like sometimes the backgrounds would be light blue,
Mm-hmm.
then in certain places it would be white, then it would be like a pastel pink or like a real mint green. It wanted to make me explore in that form.
Mm-hmm.
It wanted to make me explore in that form. And when I started working Steinmart, it shut down here, store shut down here in 2005 and 2006. That was my senior year in high school. We shut down. How funny is that? Um, seeing those colors again, it just rekindled something inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
The putting the outfit together, the tying the tie, the transforming from a t-shirt and joggers to putting on professional attire and walking out of the door. And it feels great to have sometimes, when people there just try, wait a minute, who is that guy? I
Right.
mean, it's not totally, 100% that, but it's just like I said, the mystery and the sartorial journey. It's something about that journey. It's almost like as if you're going to a movie. When you go to the movie, you go under those lights and you're getting ready to watch that particular movie. It's just something about the setup, like we were talking earlier about the mood. But it started off with saying simple things like that and putting it all into fruition.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And I think myself is very similar as far as that setting the mood aspect, not something, but the journey, because
Mhm.
I tend to, especially as I've grown in this over the past few years, definitely see that when, because I've never, I guess, not been a decently dressed guy, but I think that really in the past 10 years, as I've really grown and thought about it, like thought about putting things together, thought about what sort of look I want to have, um, experimented more as well, maybe a little bit more than the past 10 years, but I definitely just think of the past 10 years. I know that I have just done a lot more research, a lot more reading, and done a lot more, because I think Webster Style, the site is damn
Mhm.
near 15 years old now, if I remember correctly. I think I started in '09 or '10, something like that, or 2010. But I definitely understand that journey. And the more you learn, the more you grow. But also, like you said, you get out on that stage. And I don't think I don't think anybody is as serious about it does it for other people. A lot of it is just, well, most of it is how you feel about yourself, but the reactions of others, that, like you said, others take notice. Who is that guy? And that is something that, whether it was where I am now or where I was before, even before then, that was something that was always commented on. And it's like
Yeah.
you're putting us all to shame. Like, why do you come dressed to work like that? Sort of thing. I
Now,
definitely understand that.
let me ask you this,
Mhm.
Eldon. Are you? I'm pretty sure, but I just want to make sure. Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Kevin Samuels?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So here's the thing. I got a chance to not meet him, but speak with him like through email a few times.
Uh-huh.
May his soul rest in heaven. I was watching Mr. Samuels well before the
Same.
controversy and everything when he was talking about Molecule One,
See,
the molecule.
that's Kevin was one of the few black fragrance guys when I got into fragrances in 2017. He was one of the few black fragrance guys that I was able to find and watch. So it was really
Yeah,
not strange. I think it was a natural evolution, especially with some of the conversations he had with guys, which people never talk about, which I don't understand why. But, well, no, women never talk about. We talk about it.
yeah, we
But
do, we do.
but they never talk about it. But yet he was fragrance and style. And while his audience wasn't that large then, he was literally one of the first black guys I found during that time that was
Absolutely.
doing that sort of thing, that had any
Hmm.
kind of profile. And again, it wasn't even a big profile, especially compared to fragrance specifically. A lot of the other guys, but even just style and dress, what teaching men's fashion, Alpha M, all like, even I forget Antonio's website, but like those guys,
The
like
real
I
man,
still
real
go there because
style.
I'm sorry, Real Man Real Style,
It's
yes, love
yeah,
Antonio.
mhm.
Always love his stuff. Like they put a lot of good stuff, but they always came to the forefront. And a couple other cats who I don't really watch anymore, but Kevin was like the only black guy at the time that I really saw with that sort of platform before he ended up pivoting. But yeah, I'm very familiar. Yeah, I'm one of those ones just like you. Like I watched before the transition, before Average or Best, and all that stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, I want to, expound on some of the things that and share
Mhm.
with our audience some of the things that he communicated with me through email. I told him that I would get around to trying Molecule One, but I told him I would probably, because see, I know Molecule One is the ISO E Super, so I told him I would do this. Eventually, I would try the Molecule Five from
Mhm.
Eccentric Molecules, or Molecule Three. One of those two. I told him I would get around to that, and when he gave me, some fair and constructive criticism a few years back, he was telling me, "Hey, don't quit school, continue to grow, and go ahead and go off to graduate school, but don't quit, don't stop and everything, don't worry about the past." He gave me constructive criticism like that because I had I had emailed him a question,
Mhm.
and then of course the question it turned into something there, and it was a level of respect because I knew Mr. Sanders before he had that beard and everything, because he didn't even have that beard. That's the funny thing.
Right.
He was talking about Molecule One, Bulgari. He was talking about uh, Gucci. He was talking about a lot of, and he knew his stuff. And he was actually one of the first people to tell me as a viewer, make sure you know your body chemistry and don't worry
Mhm.
about having so many colognes. Make
Right.
sure you have all of the ones, every last one of them that work for you, the ones that you have.
Exactly. And I think that point right there is something that people don't get. I always say fragrances are very intimate, and even when I try to really talk about them, I really try to make it a personal experience to me, because I know that that's like I say, Zahara Signature Pour Home. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I think the makeup will work with a lot of people, but I know some people won't. Dior Sauvage, love. I think it smells good. I think it's very widespread, so I don't do it. But there's some people who it does not work on, and it
And I'm
can
one of
come
those
off.
people.
It comes off like I literally, it maybe it's like a week or two ago, and I smelled it. And this person in their own personal body chemistry, they were very musky, and I'm just like, I wanted to cry because they sprayed on so much, and then their own body chemistry. It This whole thing is really a journey of self discovery. And I don't think that is a point that's really talked about because, like you say, you got to know your own body chemistry. You got to know what works on you. That's why even myself, I tell people you're getting into it, don't buy big bottles. If you can't
Mm-mm,
test it, get a small bottle.
mm,
Do your rack stores first. That way, you are not paying a whole lot of money for something that may not work on you. If you're paying $10 for a 30 ml bottle, it's only $10 you lost. You don't want to spend $100 and you're like, oh, this is some garbage, or
yeah,
it doesn't work
yeah,
on my skin. And that's an excellent point to make.
yeah. And I do like 1.7. Now, some, of course, just a few, it may be like a two or a three, but most of them in my cupboard there, it's 1.7. And your signature fragrance, Elden, you said was Zahara.
Yeah, signature for home. Yeah, that's
Okay,
either
that's what's
that
up. That's what's
or
up.
Oxford Blue from English
English
Laundry.
Lawn.
Those two are my
Yeah,
signatures. Yeah,
classic.
yeah,
Classic. Now, like with my signature fragrance, for years it has been Versace Eros. A
right.
friend of mine put me onto it in 2015.
Hmm.
His name is William. He lives in San Antonio, and he didn't think that I was going to like the Savage. So we went one day to Leesville, Louisiana, like 20 minutes away from here. And we
Hmm.
go to stage, and when I smelled it, I looked at him and I looked at the lady, and I was like, "This is just not going to work for me." And
Right.
they bust out laughing. He was like, "Well, hey man, why don't you try this? Have you heard of this?" I was like, "What is this? Versace Eros." And when I put it on, it lasts like over 10 hours.
I
Like
believe it.
all of my fragrance, knock on wood, all of my fragrance, they typically last over 10 hours because it actually works. The mint, anything that's lavender, anything that's honey,
Hmm.
those three, they're gonna last a long time on my skin. And
Hmm.
in Broxton too. They're gonna last a long time on my skin, with my skin DNA and composition.
Right.
So, I mean, everybody was wearing like Dior Safaris around that time, and here I am walking around with Versace Arrows,
Right.
and I have people call me and say, "Hey, is that mint oil? What is that?" Like I
Right.
have people back. It was fun.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. It's interesting when you get those reactions when people take notice of what you're wearing. I get that a lot with, well, not a lot, but I get that with Ovation for Men quite often, and just the reaction to that because it's so different than what a lot of people smell on a regular. Um, the Zahar Royale, surprisingly, uh, like I was surprised. Like I went to a fragrance meetup a couple weeks ago with some brothers, and they smelled it and they were just like, "Wow, this is really good." Like they were familiar, but they were like, "Wow, this is like it was a really nice, crisp fragrance with that DNA." And that's actually when end up getting a lot of notice for as well, which is surprises me because while I like it, and everything that I've gotten from George, I've really loved and liked, but that wouldn't be the one that I would say, hey, this is the one that would get me noticed. I would have
Yeah,
said it'd probably been the rose or even the Noir. I really like the Noir with the pepper and everything. It's a bit darker than the original Zahara, but yeah, I was like, okay, the Royale is the one that gets noticed. Interesting.
okay. Now that was the Royale that you were referring to. They got the notice.
Yeah, yeah, signature Royale.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this: how did they feel about the Ovation? I mean, because I've heard great things about Ovation. Because Jufro fragrances,
Hmm.
Lawrence is great. He actually introduced me to one fragrance that I have on now that I've received compliments on, Barara King.
Okay.
But he also talked about Ovation. I wanted to, try them, but the last time that I did go and try to see if I can get like a sample just to see what they were working
Right.
with, they were, sold out.
Right.
So how does Ovation actually smell, Eldon?
Well, I like it. Actually, what's what I have right here? I got the no, the sport is the one that's right next to me. Let me tell you. Okay, so my spouse is very particular. She
Okay.
is for some reason her nose everything smells musky. I don't know why. She'll say, "What is that musk you have?" I'm like, "There's no musk in this fragrance. I don't know what you smell." So she's very particular. So when she likes something, she likes something. So the Ovation has some aquatic, some tonka bean, I think some tobacco in there. Um, it's it's heavy and light at the same time is the best way I can describe it. But I bring up my spouse because the first time I wore it, I remember because there are two fragrances that out of all these fragrances that I've worn that she had literally stopped and just smelled and asked me what I was wearing. So I was coming up the stairs one day, she was going down. And this is probably my first time wearing my second time wearing it, Ovation. She stopped and said, "What are you wearing?" And I told her what it was, and she's like, "It smells really good." Now, for my spouse to say, just to stop and do that, that tells me all I need to know about how good this fragrance is. And then the other fragrance was Authenticity from Authenticity Perfumes. And I remember distinctly, I was at the stove cooking, and she came up and she started at my chest and then sniffed up to my neck. She's like, "What are you wearing?" And I was like, "Okay." So those are two times I'm like, "Oh, that got a hook. That got a hook right there." But the Ovation, it is. It's weird because I'm like in my mind right now. I'm thinking of Ovation Sport, and Ovation Sport is just this is what my best description of Ovation Sport, and I'm getting off of that, off of Ovation. When you smell Ovation, think of Ovation combined with Nautica Voyage. Because the first time I sprayed, I'm like, it smells like Ovation, but it reminds me of something. And I wore it a couple more times, and I'm like, it kind of smells like Ovation and Nautica Voyage. And then I pulled out Ovation, I put on Nautica Voyage, and I sprayed them together. And sure enough, they smell just like Ovation Sport. I was like, okay, all right, I'm not mad at this. But Ovation to itself, I really like it because I feel like, at least on my skin, is very sophisticated. It has one that is garnered compliments at work. Um, it's sophisticated, and I feel as though, for me, I feel it's multifaceted. I could wear it at work. I could wear it out. I could wear it a black tie. I think it's one that it can be very well suited for someone's signature scent because of its versatility. At least for me and my nose and the way I wear fragrances, it can easily be a signature scent. But it's one that, much like Zahara signature for home, and that's a little bit different because of the lavender in it. I just love the calming effect on that one. If I really want to go in and I want to feel powerful, and I really if I have a presentation, I'm doing some sort of big time high level thing. Ovation is probably one of the first ones I wear just because of that sort of mood it sets for me. So that's what it does for me.
Okay. Sounds it sounds like it's a real banger. It really does. I
Yeah,
mean, so as soon as I get a chance, I think I might still, just get like a small uh decant or something, just to smell it. Once I, get a
yeah.
chance to do that.
I
But
took it to the fragrance I met up, and some of those guys, it went from very new and experienced to some cats were getting straight ood from the Middle East. They were like, "Whoa, you are up there," sort of guys, and everybody was just really impressed because a lot of the guys had seen it and heard about it, especially some of the guys that I interact online, but they hadn't smelled it. And they were just like, "Oh, this is good. This is like," so they were really impressed with it as well. Which, you always wonder because everybody has their taste. Everybody likes what they likes,
yeah, yeah.
and when they smelled it, they were really impressed with it. So I'm like, okay, all right, they got a hit here. But yeah, I it's one of those ones I recommend. If people ask me, hey, what fragrance, and I've had a couple friends who bought the initial batches of Ovation based on my recommendation, I would definitely say, hey, Ovation's definitely one to get. If you're looking to get something, I think with the makeup, it'll fit most guys. I always go to Zahara. I say, really signature home. You can't mess with that one. It's a nice take on the fougere, the lavender, the oud, the frankincense. It's. I love that fragrance so much. I think my first bottle was a 60 ml. I think I killed that in a year because I sprayed it so much. I was like, I told George, I'm like, George, I like showering this. It smells so good. And again, for me, I love that lavender and the calming effect. I've been kind of nursed in the 100 ml, but I still got a 60 ml that's still in packaging that I still have on the shelf. I'm like, I don't want to break this out yet. So the 100 ml, I think it's 120. I've been sparingly using that over the past 2 years. But yeah, I always recommend those, and um even Eros, and see I go Eros and then Oxo Blue because Oxo Blue definitely smells like Eros. I think it has a bit more vanilla to it. And but those are just fragrances I think that, oddly enough, and I think it's where you are, because I don't know if you follow Guy Hood Sense on Instagram and TikTok. He's been around for a while. I don't know where he is. He smells Versace Eros all the time. He because he complains about it, and we laugh and joke about it. But I don't smell Eros around here too often. I smell a lot of Sauvage. When I do smell fragrances, what else do I smell? Especially, I guess this time of year, I'm going to be smelling a lot of Dolce Gabbana Light Blue. When I go into the grocery store, that's one that a lot of people, a lot of guys tend to get. Um, You know, one that I'm surprised that, and I say this and I haven't picked it up either, but I need to. I'm surprised that a lot more people don't talk about Coach, just the original Coach fragrance. That is really
Oh,
good. And again, I haven't purchased yet one because I, I guess for me, I have been focused more so on getting like smaller bottles, as well as when I do buy things, I try to get from more independent houses at the moment. So I'm not going so much for
yeah,
designer because one, I'm like, I want to support. Two, especially when they're reasonably priced, I'm like, why not? Why not get 60 ml something for like 20, 30, $40 from this guy. If I don't like it, okay, but at least I try it out more so than I know the coach isn't going anywhere. I'll put it that way.
yeah. Now with like summertime, coming up, I mean, I like to, just go with just a few fragrances because here in Louisiana it gets really, really hot, and it doesn't
Right.
make any sense to wear a fragrance that's too heavy.
Right.
You see, like, so I'm sticking with the basics this summer. I'm going with the all-time classic Aqua de Jo.
Hmm.
I'm going with Versace Eau Fresh. I get like 7 hours with that because the star fruit note, it just mixes with my
Right.
skin. I don't know how, but I get like close to 7 hours with that. And I'm also going to stick with Dylan Blue. And I'm going to also stick with my Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue All Intense.
Right.
Those are my basic, four, fragrances that I'm going to be working with during the summer because here in Louisiana, this tropical climate, it's not actually four seasons. You're really getting three.
Right.
You see, because like you have summer, which stands alone by itself. Then you have spring and fall, and then fall/winter. So, I mean, everything that you wear in the fall, you can wear it in the spring, and if you can wear it in the fall, you can also wear it in the winter.
Right.
That's just how it is. Now the weather's kind of funny here
Yeah.
because I mean
Understood. Yeah.
we
With being in the DC area, I get all four, so I get to experiment a little bit more with a lot of the heavier stuff. Like I was Villain, which is based on tobacco vanilla from Tom Ford. That is super heavy, but it's interesting 'cause I think I wore it once or twice during the summer just to see how those notes would really play with the heat and then the sweat and everything. And it came
okay.
off more syrupy. I got a lot more of the vanilla, but it was still heavy, like super heavy. And you definitely don't need something that heavy when it's like 90 to 100 degrees outside. Yeah, definitely. I think for me this summer, Zaharoff is always one that I wear all year round because I just love it. And I think it's heavy enough but light enough at the same time. I tend to go toward Kenneth Cole Reaction. I like that. It's a nice, easy reach. I like the watermelon note. I'm very basic when it comes to my summer fragrances. Um, Versace, not Versace, Nautica Voyage. I go with that classic. It's such an easy reach that I don't have to think about it, and it smells so good. And I think that one is one. There are a few fragrances that I remember before I got into my fragrance journey. That was one of them.
Okay.
Nautica Voyage, because I remember it was in my old job. It's funny. The job I was at before now. I actually went to the conference and presented at the conference of the job I was at before that job. So based on the fact that literally it was like I was only gone 6 months. Like, hey, I'm still going to the conference. So my old coworker's like, oh, you don't need to get a room. You can just, crash with me. So I'm like, I crashed with him. He ended up having to leave. And he just left his bottle. He's like, look, I just bought his bottle of his cologne. You can have it. And it was Nautica Voyage. And I was like, oh, this smells good. So that has always left an impression on me as far as like if and when those fragrances that do that, you're like, I want to have this in my collection. So that is one that for me, I always want to have in my collection just because it's so good and it's such a good summer fragrance.
Oh yeah, and I remember selling a lot of it whenever I was working at Steinmore. I sold a lot of the Nautical Voyage. I sold a handful of the Nautica. I think it's N85. It's
Yeah.
it's like an alternative of
Yes.
the Nautical Voyage line, and Nautica Blue. Definitely, sold a lot of that. But Nautica Voyage, I mean, it could have been almost to like number one in sales, almost like Aqua de Joe, as
Hmm.
we both know that Aqua de Joe has been somehow the number one fragrance like of all time, according to the statistics since
Right.
1996 of the convention. But like you said, I mean, it's an easy reach. Let's say I sold the Kenneth Cole Reaction,
Hmm.
the watermelon note. I'm trying to think of the other one. It's at the tip of my tongue because like I said, I remember this selling this at time. Oh, Burberry, Burberry.
Yes.
I remember selling that one too.
Now
I
that's one I
mean,
haven't experienced yet, but I've always heard good things, especially for the spring and summer with that one, the
mhm.
Burberry.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
It's a lot
just
of
yeah,
revenue.
but and also I like those too because they're very inexpensive. Whether you get it in a on Amazon or a rack store, you can typically find those on this time of year pretty inexpensively, and that's why again, if somebody's just trying them out, it's like look, look. I love my niches. I love, if I got the money to spend on, 150, $200 or whatever on a bottle, that's great.
Mm,
But if you're just getting into it, I would never recommend anybody doing that.
mm-mm. You have to take your
Never.
time. And speaking of niche fragrances, I was gonna wait, but you brought it up. Um, Now, how long have you been into the niche fragrances, and which ones do you have, Eldon?
Well, I've been in just in total, I think I got in like 2017, just fragrances in general, and it was because of Oxford Blue. I ended up getting I forget if it was like a gentleman's box or a espresso box. I think it was gentleman's box, and they had like a 10 ml sample, and I sprayed it, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. But not just I sprayed it, the reactions that I got, I was like, they were like, what are you wearing? Like people just loved it. So that is what got me really into fragrances. As far as niche stuff, it's really whatever I get my hands on. I'm not so much into like, oh, I gotta go to this house. Like even Zaharov was a fluke. Um, I happened to win. Red Adolescence had a contest when
Oh,
George first brought out Zaharov's signature home, and he had a contest. And if you won, like he had a bunch of winners, but you won, you got a schematic of the bottle, and then there was a sample. And so based on that, I think I did a stop motion of unboxing the sample and everything and did my review of, and this is very early on in my YouTube, not I wasn't even really on YouTube then, but Instagram game. And George ended up reaching out to me and we struck up a relationship and he sent me a full bottle. And I guess that's my first niche, if you it's like niche designer, really. But other than that, it's if I can get something or I get my hands on something cool, or even the samples. A lot of my niche stuff comes away as samples, Scent Explorer, things of that nature. If I'm doing, I don't know if really niche, but like more indie stuff, I try to go with the independence, authenticity, ovation, Maison de Darius. Those are guys who I've really big on and trying out champion because like we reached out to each other, like got samples from them, um, tried them out, loved them, purchased, talked about them. It's like, oh, this is really good stuff, sort of thing. So a lot of it's just been networking in that regard, as far as whatever niches I've got into, or samples I've gotten, and then I've gone and bought the bottles. But I would say authenticity is a fragrance line I like. They they advertise 12 hours, and every single thing I've smelled from them and sprayed has been 12 hours plus. And I mean everything. Right now, like they have a new one called Excursion, which I think Ross just did a review of, so I gotta watch his. But I have a bottle of Clean Musk and Tobacco Boss. Tobacco Boss I like, but it's not a fan favorite in the house, so I don't wear it as often. Um, Clean Musk, I really love it. It is. It's exactly what it says. It's clean musk. So you got the musk, you got the amber, and I think it has a lime note as well. So it's fresh and has a sort of a light musk as well. Um, and again, you feel clean wearing. So I really enjoyed that. And then authenticity is just, and I need to buy a full bottle. That was just, that's like a perfect one for the summer as well. I would say if a guy's out there looking for something that is a quote unquote panty dropper, instead of getting Sauvage, I would say, hey, get that one. Just based on my own experience with that, like that was, and it doesn't smell like anything else. And then there's one that uh Le Home, I think it's Le Home Fraiche. I forget what it is. And I bring that one up. I don't know if full bottle had a sample, but it was the Armanico Parfum. So I had that bottle. I had a
Oh,
sample that I tested that out and I loved it. I loved the iris note, but it smelled like something, and I could not put my finger on it for the longest time. And then I ended up pulling out that sample of the Home Fraiche, whatever it's called, from Authenticity, and I sprayed them like, that's what it smells like. It reminded me of, well, I guess in this case, Armani Co Parfum reminded me of that fragrance. And I'm like, shoot, I would rather get
yeah,
the authenticity because it's going to cost me a lot less than Armani Co Parfum, which is absolutely a beautiful fragrance. I love the iris note in that fragrance. That is definitely
yeah,
a black tie sort of fragrance right there. Absolutely love that one. Like I would actually honestly, and I think I still have my sample around here somewhere. But
yeah.
yeah, it's in my travel kit. When I go on trips for work, I have a few
Yeah.
fragrances that I know that I want to keep. And so this is my sample of Armani Code I got for review that I still have. So I still got a little bit left here. I don't know
Okay.
if you can see. A
Yeah.
little bit goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah. Less, is more, and to expound on what you were saying. Now, I have the Money Code perfume as well. I got it from dealers. I got it on sale. But see, I think the thing is when it comes to niche fragrances that a lot of guys need to do, like you said, don't be so quick like to buy a bottle, because recently I spoke to a guy that actually lived here in Louisiana with
Mhm.
me, and he was like, "Man, this ain't worth it. This ain't worth it." And I said, "Well, what did you buy? You want to know what he bought?" He brought a bottle of Creed of Venice, and I'm like, "Dude, no, you got to test
No.
that first, because the old Creed of Venice, that was the beast mode.
Yeah.
This new formulated recipe, I don't know what it is that they did to it, but it is not the same, because it doesn't make any sense. And I'm pretty sure you can appreciate this. It doesn't make any sense for a man to spend over $100, $200 to $300 plus, and a fragrance is not going to last any more than 3 hours. That makes absolutely no sense. And another thing about niche fragrance, they don't always have to be super expensive, because
Right.
my Mass Milano that I have in there, which lasts over 12 hours,
Right.
the Reflection, which is my best spring fragrance, that lasts me over like 12 hours.
Right.
And I won't gatekeep. I'll tell people, hey, that's only like $70, because I go to Fragrance Net to get that.
Right.
I
Exactly.
go to
Yeah.
Fragrance Net to get that. I
That's
mean,
why I know it's good. I have a sample
but,
of that one. That lasts the same on me as well.
mhm,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree with you about that. 'Cause, I, I know that there's a lot of debate about how long fragrances should last. However, just like you said, if I'm look, if the money I'm paying on this fragrance could pay my water bill, my electric bill, my car note, anything for my household,
Talk to me.
I better get all day beast mode out of it. That's just the way I see
Exactly. Exactly. I feel the exact same way.
it.
But in the meantime, if I can get fragrances that are, because typically when I break it down, like what I'm paying for my fragrances, from 20 to $80,
Right.
and I'm getting 8 to 10 hours plus on average with those, I'm gonna stick with those because I know that they work. Now, yes, I hear about the Bergdorf Naxos. Yes, I hear about Herbal Pures. I
Right.
hear about the Baccarat Rouge 540s. I'm not going to waste my
Not
time with
gonna
those
buy.
because I already have everything that I need here. And I'm not spending over $200 for a fragrance. It's just
No,
not going to happen
if
ever.
if I'm doing that, first of all, I'm getting a discovery set first. Like there are a
Hmm.
few. That's in a few companies that they like off the top of my head. There are a few companies that I say, hey, I'm buying a full bottle. Pretty much anything from Chris Collins to this point, I'm going to buy a full bottle. Zaharoff, I would buy a full bottle. Um, Kimberly, New York, at least with the fragrances, I've experienced both Ether and Echelon. Well, Echelon, that joint is so powerful. A full bottle will last you, like, I still have a 30 ml, and that stuff is so potent. It's what, mahogany. It's rich and it's dark, but with the oil concentration, it literally irradiates off your skin all day from your body heat. I'm like, you don't need a couple sprays of this one. Like, I don't know if I need a full bottle of that one. But between that and then ether, like that's a full bottle. But even she is pretty inexpensive. I would steer people like you can get full bottles. There are niche houses that are a whole lot more reasonable in cost. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, get a discovery set first. See if you like
Yeah.
something. See how it performs on you. I just got something from Marcel Rofe, and I love their fragrances as well. Everything I smell for them because I smell the original Savoir Faire back as part of a subscription box or olfactory, whatever, many years ago, and I was like, man, this stuff is good. And I've gotten a couple of their cigar um, bottles at 20, I think it's 25 ml bottles. Like they're another company who I'm like, okay, yeah, I would buy a full bottle. Kirk Elliott, just based on the samples I've gotten from them, they're full bottle. But again, I've gotten samples from them. I have got, little small travel sizes from them just to see if these are fragrances that I like. Also, too, and I would say this to anybody as well, a lot of these smaller brands, they very much communicate with people online and you can ask questions. They do lives. I That's one of the things that, and this is one of the things when I talked to George Zahar a couple months ago when I interviewed him.
Mhm.
That's one of the things he really enjoyed about the social media aspect, being able to interact with people, being able to talk to people who are passionate, being able to have people ask questions about the fragrance and what it is, and even just some of the other stuff he'd done beforehand as far as how he sourced everything and that was on his YouTube. Like I thought that was amazing. But like Chris Collins is online. He's Chris Classic from My Savoir Fair. He's online all the time. Trill from Harmony, like he's literally always on lives. But so many of these smaller niche houses are really utilizing social media to interact and work with their clientele. And I really liked it. And I think for me, in my opinion, I think that makes the experience even that much more personal. That you're able to interact with these brands in a way that even with Max and what he's done with Sin Explore, even though I haven't been personally, some of the guys at the group, they gone and other people, that interaction really is, in many respects, I would say, bringing more and more people into fragrances, but
Mhm.
also really creating that intimate aspect of fragrances, which we really talk about how it really is a personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about how that particular fragrance will expound on your confidence.
Right.
That's what I mean. That was about. I mean, like I mentioned earlier about some of the things that I discovered like as a little boy and how it carried over with me. See, I realized that simplicity serves as the cornerstone of style, and that's
Mhm.
just how you keep it. You keep it simple. You grow from there. You start off with the basics, and then of course you experiment with what actually works.
Right.
What actually works. That's what you do like 1,000 times over. Yeah.
So let me ask you, let's pivot away from fragrances because I want to, this is something that, we were discussing on TikTok. So you put out, um, you stitched somebody, I forget who it was, talking about things you see in movies or whatnot that people don't notice. And you talked about
Oh,
guys in
yes.
suits not wearing pocket squares. And I commented
Mm.
as well, and then I talked about ill-fitting suits. Let me tell you, so I had a function at work the other day, and
Talk
I'm
to me.
noticing all these guys in some nice suits. And I would say it may have been maybe 50 people in the room, maybe all the guys in suits. Two
Hmm.
of us had pocket squares. I'm looking, I'm thinking, man, it's interesting how plain a suit looks, even a nice suit, when you do nothing to it
Yeah.
whatsoever. And in pocket squares, look, you don't have to have all the fancy folds, just a square, stick it in, it's cool. But they add so much character to a suit, and it's so simple to do. And it's funny because I never realized I didn't pay it. Well, first of all, with the way the world has been, I haven't exactly been in a lot of office functions like that in quite a while. That's probably my first one in a while. Everything's been virtual, as far as my line of work. But seeing that, it's like I never paid attention before. Um, and then also, and I talked to you and I said, as far as movies are concerned, dude, suits, jackets, like they're always too big. Like I don't understand how. I'm gonna say always. You have some movies where like they're perfect, but you
Hmm.
see a lot of characters in movies, television, where you ask the question, do they not care that this is an improperly fitting jacket? And it just makes them look either it's too small or it's too big. And it just really doesn't work with what they're trying to convey for this character. And you have to scratch your head and wonder, like, how they let this slip by.
Yeah, and even when I see, of course, whether it be politician, a movie star, actor, I mean, millions of dollars in a particular budget, particularly for a film, millions of dollars, and you mean to tell me that you can't get someone to take that gentleman with that suit and let them actually slim it down a little bit
Right.
and form it? I mean, because all of the extra fabric, it just looks tacky. It looks really, really tacky when you have
It
all of that
does.
extra fabric on a suit, and it looks like you're not refined in everything. I mean, and when you wear a suit, it's not always maybe a sense of power, but it is a sense of diligence,
Right.
respect, perseverance, and accuracy, precision. That's something that, of course, this country was built off of, and particularly gentlemen like ourselves who have African American ancestry, with all of the inventions that we have contributed to America and the world.
Right.
We need to actually take a little bit more pride in how we present ourselves and how we put on the jacket and how we, like I see that you have on suspenders. I can tell that you have a nice tie and you have the shirts buttoned down. You're presenting yourself well, like, and it doesn't take but just a few seconds.
Y- I'm glad you brought that up because I think, and that's really how all of this started back in the day. My a friend of my spouse's was one of the things, how this all started. So at the time, I'm reading GQ, Details, Esquire, all of that. And one of the things I said, that I think I said to my wife, my wife's friend, and I said, I don't see many of us in these magazines. And this is late 2000s. I don't see many of us. No, obviously times have changed, but I'm like, I don't see many of us in these magazines. And anything that is focused toward us is urban, like King Magazine and all these. And I'm like, look, I am from Baltimore, Maryland. I am from the inner city. I have never been that guy. Like, so that sort of look, that sort of style has never been reflective of me and who I am as a man and how I present myself. And that's kind of where all of this started. And then I've been very blessed to have like-minded brothers in my circle, whether those that are directly I went to school with or those that I met in college. And I had a friend of mine that I met in college from another university, and we ended up working together. And he's just like, oh, you should really try bow ties. I think Laguna, because he was into that, and we were both in positions of leadership at this university at the time, and so we understood that these kids, and when the kids are looking up to us as role models as black men, because one, we weren't too far in age from them. Like I think we both just got out of grad school, so we're both in these leadership positions and student activities at this HBCU. And so all of these, and I would just say, I was at Coppin State in Baltimore for a year, so I was literally like 3 blocks from where I grew up. Um, my man brought me in. We worked together in student activities, trying to make change. And I understood even then. I came in as a representative because literally, that's like I am here. This is home. My mom went back to school and got her degree from Coppin State. So my first college class was sitting in a bio class at Coppin State University when I was in the fourth grade. So I said this was home, and the response that I received when I came in, and not just that, but when they looked me up at the time when I was on Facebook personally, when they looked me up and they saw my background, and it was, why are you here? Like I didn't, like I was too good to be there. And that's also my colleague, like that's sort of reactions he got, like, why are you here? So we knew automatically we were representations of what they could do. And mind you, we were both very young in our careers. But the fact that now, so like I was working in student activities, but my degrees are in environmental science, marine science, and natural resource management. And I had done internships, park service, like I done a whole bunch in that background. And to be there, and they're like, why are you here? Like you're not supposed to be here. You too good to be here based on what you've done. And I said, look, I grew up 3 blocks down the street. I'm no different than you. And I am here to do whatever I can to help you achieve what you want to. And part of that started with the way I looked, how I brought myself into the office every single day, what sort of tone I set and my colleagues set. And that is fortunately one of the things that's always been instilled in me as far as your presentation, because we know how we are looked upon, and you have to be twice as good as everybody else. That's what we're instilled with. So I have always been of that mindset to, I want to present my best self to the world. And I was very fortunate growing up that I had opportunities to do that and be in those situations. But as an adult, it just became more and more ingrained in me. And to your point, it gets to me how I see that care isn't taken, how and really what I have on is probably less expensive than what a lot of say younger contemporaries of ours spend on their budget at all. And I always tell people, looking good is not necessarily just spending goo gobs of money on designer suits and this and no. You can get
Facts.
practical items. Shoot, I thrift a lot. One of my favorite jackets, that blue blazer I have, Joseph A. Bank, but I got it for $10 off Poshmark. Wool, the whole nine. It's like you don't have to break the bank to look good. And the fact that
Oh,
that is not,
yes.
that presentation isn't there on a regular basis, and that is a I've tried to instill that when I've had conversations with those that are younger than me over the past few years. I know at this point I'm coming off like the old man because I'm 45, pushing 46, but it it I don't understand in our era, in the internet era, and I go back to the Matrix, where you show up in the Matrix as the best representation of yourself, how you want your self image. And typically, your self image is what you would be at your best, your coolest, or whatever in the course of the Matrix. We have a society now that we are all online, and people have zero F's to give how they present themselves online. And especially for our brothers, like, did you really just present yourself to the world in this way? Because I understand The internet is forever. And if there's anything of me online, I want to make sure that I am presentable to the world, because that's how I want the world to see me. That's how who I want the world to see. Just like when you get online and you present yourself, it's about having air professionalism, but again, the details and understanding, like, this is what I'm showing to everyone. Because we are all multifaceted. I'm not always in this, you're not always in that. But as far as the world is concerned, you want to present your best self. You go into that job interview, you present your best self. You get online, you do a live, you present your best self. I don't understand why, I don't understand where we lost that. And not just lost that, but also the comprehension of, oh, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It
Yeah.
really, it really does matter. Now, I'm not one to, like, I don't own a pair of jeans. I wear khakis all the time and this and that. But even what I wear normally, I've gotten asked, "Oh, you look nice today. Like, ain't going somewhere special?" I'm like, "No, this is normal for me. This is like normal attire. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not wearing a shirt or tie, but just how I dress myself and how I want to present myself to the world, and also how it makes me feel as well." That's another point that I think they don't understand. Like, this gives me, you word of that sense of empowerment as well. But the fact that so much of that is lost now, it's baffling and scary in many respects, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does matter. And another thing, like you said, I think it's just the way that we think, and it's the way that we see things. And there was a gentleman that asked me recently. This was going on a couple weeks ago. Because see, today is the 9th, so that had to been last Monday.
Hmm.
The gentleman asked me, Justin, I see that you get these nice outfits and you have your jackets. You have a couple of nice suits in there. Where do you get them from? Come with me to the Goodwill. Oh, I can't be seen dead in the Goodwill. Okay, then we can't have this conversation. Because, I mean, if you're going to be so caught up into yourself the way you can't go to the Goodwill before you go to a major store, and be prepared to spend the money and be prepared to be miserable. Because that charcoal gray suit that I actually have, you probably seen it on my
Hmm.
page, that thing cost me $11.38.
Okay.
And what I did was I took it to my seamstress,
Hmm.
and it's a Joseph A. Bank suit. It's a Joseph A. Bank. It was brand new. It still had the tag on it. A lot of gentlemen who are older, towards the end of the year, they donate.
Right.
And towards the beginning of the year, that's whenever they donate. They get rid of things because if they're not wearing it anymore, or if they never got a chance to wear it, then it makes no sense for them to actually keep it in their closet.
Exactly.
That's how you save and that's how you keep money. Because, like, with the outfit that I have on now that I went to work in, this thing did not, well, this is my Ralph Lauren bottom suits and everything, but it doesn't actually cost like over $100,
Right.
including the shoes and the socks, even the prescription glasses and the watch. I mean, it's simple things that actually make the details. It's not about you don't, the clothes don't make you. You reveal who you are through wearing the
Exactly.
clothes, but the clothes don't actually make you. Because I can take something out of nothing. Like another thing he had asked me about was this watch, $1 and some change off of Wish. It's a matter of taking
Right.
what you find and doing something with it. Now, lemons, water, ice, sugar, sweetener, whatever it is you use, those items don't cost that much. But you put them all together and you do
Hmm.
it right, you can sell it for $5 a cup right
Right.
there on that street. Right there on that
Right.
street. And people will come up and buy more and more and more. So I'm saying that to say it doesn't, always cost a lot to have style, because a matter of style is what is timeless.
Right.
And your
Exactly.
style also, your style is also intertwined with your character and your behavior and how you treat people and how you show the world, as you stated, your best self.
Hmm.
Internet, in person, It doesn't cost much.
Exactly. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. I hope that one of the things I hope, and this is probably one of the biggest compliments I get now, um, are from some of the women that follow me, but not so much because they like the content for themselves, but they refer to men that they know. They say, hey, this is somebody you should follow. This is something that there is one young woman, and with mutuals on TikTok, she has two older sons. She says, I tell them, look, you need like they're about to graduate high school, about to go to college. You want to learn some things. You should go to Web Styles page. Like you can learn a lot. I'm like that right there. That's one of the biggest compliments you can give me to what I'm doing. Where I'm just a dude that likes what I like, but I'm also trying to, as my friend says, really further one individual at a time our ethnic image. Because I don't know about you, I am tired, so tired of us, particularly, even in 2024, being
Hmm.
seen as this monolith of, say, urban decay, but of urban life. And
Yes.
urban is not black, urban is just urban. And I am born and raised in an urban environment, which makes it even me even more upset about it. But I am tired of this monolithic viewpoint that society has of black men in general. And I'm glad there are gentlemen like you out there and a lot of other cats that are consistently out there showing a different side of who we are. Because I think that's the more of us that are out there, we dent it, and the more of this individuals like I send my sons to you, and other people who have said like they send it to whatever men they know, like oh this is that. I have friends I used to work for, like oh you do what? Like I literally had a coworker ask me the other day, like are you trying to be famous? I'm like no, I just look. This is fun for me. This is fun. I get to talk about things that I love. People watch.
Quality.
I'm happy. But
Quality.
it's not about fame.
Yeah, that's what quality is. Exactly. Like you said, it's quality. If the fame comes, it comes. If it
Yeah,
doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, it's quality.
yeah.
That's all that matters. It's quality.
Yep, I appreciate it. Well, Justin, I'm gonna let you go, man. Let everybody know where they can find you.
I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. The TikTok handle is JDH Styles, just as well as the Instagram. But I'm a lot more active on my TikTok since it's been a pleasure and been more fun interacting with gentlemen and people like yourself. It's been truly amazing. It really was, and I definitely enjoyed this conversation. I
Like,
really did.
me too, man. Me too. I'm glad I was able to reach out. We were able to connect. But everybody, make sure all his links should have flashed up there when he was talking. If not, everything will be down below. And Webster, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your listening ear. Remember, stay safe out there and be blessed.
All right, have a good night.